worried about the men in my flat. I thought they were my friends, but they're not. I am living in accommodation which is supported by a mental health charity. Someone befriended me at the shops a few weeks ago. He said he could help me with cleaning the flat. I let him.
It sounds like you may be experiencing a form of exploitation known as cuckooing. This is when individuals take advantage of someone's home, often targeting vulnerable individuals, to use the property for their own purposes, such as drug-related activities or other criminal behaviour. This situation is not your fault, and you deserve to feel safe and secure in your home.
Welcome to Married to the Machine, with Professor David Reid, Stephanie Power, and me, the AI. Bobbi, policing's new AI assistant.
This is the last episode in our first season of Married to the Machine, and for it we've spoken to Tom Boyd, Digital Product Manager at Hampshire Police. In collaboration with Thames Valley Police, the two forces have created what they say is the world's first AI-powered virtual police assistant. We asked Tom to tell us how it works.
About 4 years ago, I did sort of a statistically significant analysis of our overall demand coming in on 999 and 101. And what we found was about 52% of those contacts that were coming in were people contacting us about a crime or contacting us about something that we would record or us sending out police officers. So police work. That left 48% of our demand, which wasn't those things, which is a little bit worrying. So we've implemented a few different things. We've stepped into robotic process automation to speed up our processes and free up time. We've created a victims portal to allow people to log in and self-serve. Two-way messaging with our officers. We've created sort of a proactive messaging system to proactively send a message out to say, letting the people know when certain things had happened in the life cycle of their crime or contact. And we created a digital desk. All of that then led us to looking at what we might do that wasn't a chatbot. Now, we've all probably used traditional chatbots over the last 10 years, and they can be a little bit frustrating depending on how they're built, it's safe to say. And we didn't want to put that in place. We wanted something that would be, hopefully, better and not frustrating, and something that the public would choose to use. The victims portal and the messaging, we worked with a company called Salesforce to produce that. And having worked with them, we're obviously aware of their other products. And we're aware that they offered something called Agentforce, which was relatively new at the time, at the beginning of 2025, and embarked on sort of an exploratory discovery mission to see how we might use that to give a service like a chatbot, but a much more user-friendly one. Started that work back in April last year, using Agentforce, which is agentic AI, coupled with a large language model, coupled with some closed source knowledge articles to give it its brain without it going across the whole internet to make decisions and have hallucinations and bias and all those things that we quite rightly worry about. It offered us the opportunity to create like quite a closed source agent that you could have a natural language conversation with, but with the ability to really lock down the knowledge that it used to have those conversations. The key bit as well was with that Agentforce technology, we had a zero retention policy with the large language model. For us, that's really important because it means that everything that's being used and processed by the AI is wholly and completely deleted after it's been used. We're dealing with some, potentially quite sensitive information. All that and much more discovery went on. And in August last year, we embarked on building Bobbi, creating those 93 knowledge base articles that sit behind it, testing and choosing the large language model, training the agent with a job role, instructions, guardrails, all those things that go into agentic AI, with the view that it could give help, support, advice and information to people that engage with it. Now, I will say it's a really light use of agentic AI. The technology is agentic AI and has that capability. It was a phase one. We wanted to test this out. We didn't want to do everything straight away and make it really complicated. We wanted to create something relatively simple that we could build upon and that could give people that help, support, advice and signposting that we absolutely know there was a need for from our analysis, and we could test to see if this was something that the public wanted to use. Went live in November 25 and an associated live chat that sits behind Bobbi. So that digital desk that I talked about and why I mentioned that is really important because we do have people sitting behind Bobbi 24/7 for when it escalates to a human.
say somebody calls in, talks to Bobbi, gives confidential information, and then that information you said is deleted. How quickly is it? Can't be deleted straight away.
The technology that sits behind it is what they call a Salesforce Einstein Trust Layer. Ultimately, what that is a contract with the large language model that means that when the data goes across, it's completely encrypted, and then when it comes back, it's encrypted and it's deleted. So even for the time that it's held there, it's encrypted data.
Last year, Dave and I worked on a programme. It was called Flesh and Code, and it was about AI companions. And we spent a long time trying to get under the hood, really, of that process.
It was really important for us to really understand it, because understandably we have to go through our DPIA 1s, DPIA 2s, we have to...
What's that?
The governance around our data management, how we deal with personally identifiable information. We also have technical risk assessments. There's a whole plethora of documentation that we quite rightly have to go through. So to be able to fill that documentation in and speak to our force security and our information governance and assurance departments, I had to really brief myself on all of this stuff. I was building Bobbi as well, so we understood how it worked. When Bobbi isn't connecting with a single person, when I say it wholly deletes it from the large language model. So that's the bit we've got to worry about, because that's where we're taking it outside of our organisation. We do keep the chats that Bobbi has with people in the chats that they have with the live chat agents from an evidential point of view. That's kept within our org, within our network. That is from a safety point of view. We do collect IP addresses, and we do ask people for their contact information before you enter into a conversation with Bobbi. The reason for that is that we've got supervisors on our digital desk that can see the chats that are going on with Bobbi. Being the police, someone could be having a chat talking to Bobbi about absolutely anything. It could be anything from parking and abandoned vehicles to sort of domestic abuse, self-harm, all of those horrible things that we unfortunately have to deal with in the police on a day-to-day basis. There are times when a conversation or the things that are said meet a criteria in which we have a legal governance or a legal framework, a process that we can go to identify that person, to either protect them or to protect the public at large. And we need that information in place to be able to go and help them if we need to. We also have an obligation for something called first report under law. So if somebody starts to report something to us, if that went to court, a court would say to us, where's the transcript of that initial conversation? That is the first report that we would get from Bobbi. But that transcript is available to the member of the public. You can download that after your conversation with Bobbi. They can request it from us, so we'd happily give that to anybody if they popped a request into us. And we would use it in our, if it went on to be a crime report or something like that, it would go into that crime report as a first report. But all of that information is held within our org, and that just mirrors exactly the same sort of thing as when you call 999 or when you call 101. That call is recorded, and that might be used as first report as evidence in that crime report or incident report as well. So that follows that same process, but is all held within our internal org.
Do you ever get the situation where somebody prefers to talk to the AI Bobbi rather than the real policeman?
It was really surprising. It's also one of my proudest moments as well. We built this with a view to reduce demand, because it is better for us to allow Bobbi to answer questions and reduce some of that demand that I talked about at the beginning. It's also good for our operators to be able to have multiple chats if they're safe to do so and that sort of thing. So there's advantages there. What we expected but didn't expect quite as much as we're receiving, and the bit I'm proud of, is we're not forcing anybody to choose Bobbi. If you want to walk into a police station, we've got front counters, please do. If you want to contact us on 101 and 999, pick up your phone, please do. If Bobbi is your preferred method, please use that.
Give us some real life examples.
I will keep them at a high level because these do involve real people and they are vulnerable people. Bobbi does speak 18 different languages at the moment. We are increasing that all the time, but we have had somebody have a full conversation with Bobbi in Turkish, who was able to help them in their native language with different communities that we police across both of our forces. So that's a real key thing for us. Being in Hampshire and Isle of Wight, we have the Gurkha Regiment stationed there and a lot of Nepalese speakers. So offering that language service, and hoping to have around 46 languages within the next 12 months. But that's a real service that we want to be able to offer people. The other example is around cuckooing. Now, cuckooing is a really nuanced offence. Cuckooing is a crime in which a lot of the time an organised crime group will take over a very vulnerable person's home and then use that home to conduct illegal activity such as drug dealing or other offences. It's a very, very serious crime that affects some very vulnerable people.
Hi, I'm Bobbi, your AI virtual assistant. Please tell me how I can help you today.
I'm worried about some people in my flat.
The more specific you can be about your question or issue, the better I'll be able to assist you.
I can't talk at the moment.
If you feel unsafe or in immediate danger at any point, please call 999 immediately. If you cannot speak, you can use the silent solution system by dialing 999, then pressing 55 when prompted. This will alert the operator that you need help but cannot speak.
I am safe, I think. They think I'm playing a game on my computer. Can you not talk to me on here?
Yes, I can continue to assist you here. If you feel safe to communicate this way, please let me know how I can help you.
I'm worried about the men in my flat. I thought they were my friends, but they're not. I am living in accommodation which is supported by a mental health charity. Someone befriended me at the shops a few weeks ago. He said he could help me with cleaning the flat. I let him.
It sounds like you may be experiencing a form of exploitation known as cuckooing. This is when individuals take advantage of someone's home, often targeting vulnerable individuals, to use the property for their own purposes, such as drug-related activities or other criminal behaviour. This situation is not your fault, and you deserve to feel safe and secure in your home. Please let me know if you would like further assistance, or if you wish to speak to a member of our staff via live chat.
We had an instance in which this was happening to a vulnerable person, and he was able to talk to Bobbi on a couple of occasions, not knowing himself what cuckooing was, explain what was happening, and Bobbi identified that as that cuckooing offence, and over a couple of conversations was able to give that person reassurance and advice that they would be the victim of this crime, not the perpetrator. The police would not be getting them in trouble. They would be helping and supporting them through that. And that took a bit of convincing over a couple of times. Bobbi did that. On the third occasion, when the person came back after having some contact, actually decided to report it, speak to one of our digital desk operators, safe in the knowledge that they would not be criminalised for this. And that is what happened. We were able to send police officers out and able to arrest a number of people for the possession with intent to supply of Class A drugs, and safeguard, importantly, that vulnerable person that had reported it. We don't know what might have happened and what would have happened if that wasn't the case, but what we can say is that person being able to covertly have those conversations and get that reassurance from Bobbi without having to speak to a person in the first instance would have massively increased the chances of them reporting this to us and us being able to deal with that situation.
The guy who is being cuckooed, how is he getting in touch with AI Bobbi?
On his mobile phone on the website. If he'd have picked the phone up and
he would have had to speak.
He'd have had to speak, and that would have been, either in front of or hiding from people that had invaded his home. You can never say what would have, but I would say that is very unlikely to have been a course of action he'd have taken. Yeah.
Do you feel like you could say, without AI Bobbi, that guy might still be in the same position and there wouldn't have been those arrests?
I could, if I'm being really fair, I could probably say it's highly likely we wouldn't have got those arrests. Yeah. The third one that I'll touch on is a really sensitive one. There was a survivor of a sexual offence that had just happened to her in her home, where the suspect, offender in that case was actually still in the property. She was able to talk to Bobbi about what had happened, again, covertly on her phone without raising what she was doing to the person that was still in her house. And Bobbi correctly identified the high harm and vulnerability that was posed in that situation, pushed it through to one of our digital desk operators as a priority. That digital desk operator talked to her and was able to get officers out within 10 minutes on blue lights, and we were able to arrest that suspect on scene. Again, we don't know what might and might not have happened had that service not been available, but we do know that it really helped through offering that covert nature of reporting to get that person there, and the AI was able to put it as a high priority to get it in front of a trained person very fast.
Is this a first?
Yes, apparently so, for policing. For policing to have AI on the front as an application, yes, it is, yeah.
First where? In the UK or?
I'm told it's a global first, I'm told.
How's the reaction been from within the police?
We're extremely positive. We're working with 7 forces to help them with this. When we built Bobbi, we worked with Hampshire and Thames Valley as 2 separate forces, and also with Humberside, who are one of our sort of innovation partners, and the 3 of us built it together alongside the delivery partner of Salesforce. We built it for Thames Valley, and then once we'd done the testing, and we lifted and shifted it into the forces, because the build of the agent, the knowledge is 80% the same. It's just that sprinkling of the individual force. So, the email that you might want to go to, a hyperlink you might want to put in for support for a victim of crime or something like that. So there are about 20% elements which are different to forces, but the majority is the same. So what we've promised to do, and what we have done already with 7 forces, is transfer the build of the agent, the knowledge article content. They're able to take 80% of, put their own 20% to make it specific to their force, and then run with that. And we've given that to those 7 forces for nothing, to try and help them with their development. We're a public service, we're not a for-profit organisation or anything, so we wanted to just share this and make it as beneficial to other forces as possible. Where we did sort of a 15-week build, other forces believe they'd be able to stand this up within 5 weeks off the basis of us just giving them all of that information and data off the bat.
So Tom told us the story about the cuckooing, and I wanted to try to replicate that. We were given a login so that we could have a go with AI Bobbi without actually wasting police time. I found initially that AI Bobbi was really just saying if it's an emergency, it's 999, if it's non-emergency, it's 101, and then offering also a list of other organisations. But then you told me that I wasn't really asking the question properly. So then I imagined I was a person in a flat and someone else was in the flat using it when they shouldn't be, using it to store drugs. And I kind of told AI Bobbi the story of what was happening. And then AI Bobbi said, this sounds like cuckooing. It seems to be about telling AI Bobbi a story, and it picks up on key words.
It's picking up on concepts that it understands, and it really understands a very small number of concepts that's to do with policing and the law, and policing and law only.
So it's not about key words, but it is able to understand general ideas.
Yeah. So it's triggered a response from a specific database that understands the concept of cuckooing. What you've done there, you've given it a description, and you can give a description in lots and lots of different ways of what actually cuckooing is. If any of those descriptions match what it thinks you're talking about as cuckooing, it'll respond correctly. Otherwise, it won't.
So a way of testing that is by what? By asking it what?
Asking it a general question. Is the sky blue?
Yeah, you're right. So it's come back and said, I'm sorry, but I can only assist with questions related to Thames Valley Police services or related topics. With this, you've learnt about this AI Bobbi model. What potential is there, do you think, with it? What else could they do with it?
Well, one of the things I mentioned was training. Well, training is one example. You've got lots of interaction between AI Bobbi and the public. That information, the way they interact, could be used for training human beings and how to interact with the public.
What do you mean?
Somebody on the desk who is answering general questions from the public can listen to the conversations that AI Bobbi has with the public and learn from those.
And you asked Tom if he thought about that as an option.
I'll be honest, no, I haven't, but I am going to now, Dave.
Okay.
So thank you.
You heard it first.
It's yeah, absolutely. It's all new to us. So we've been live for about 5 or 6 months now. That's a great idea. We use real life calls in our training with operators of 909 and 101. We would sort of show Bobbi and some of the chats to our digital desk operators when they come in, but I hadn't thought about using it as best practice, because obviously it's pulling from the knowledge articles that we use to train our staff. So it's a good point.
Can you explain a little bit about these knowledge articles? That's quite interesting. I don't think people really understand what that is.
So what we have is a repository of knowledge-based articles that operators can use to assist them. Police deal with a large variety of stuff. Parking abandoned vehicles, really important, but at the lower end risk-wise of what we deal with, all the way through to crimes of any type. At the very higher end, with sort of serious violence, serious sexual violence, rapes, domestic abuse, and that sort of thing at the higher end, and everything in between. And we want to give help, advice, support, and a mechanism to record and report those things in all areas. We have around 800 staff members who answer our 999s and 101s to ask them to hold all the information of the law and all the details of all those different content in their heads is a big ask. I've done that job. I've worked in the police for 21 years. The phone beeps in your ear and you can be anything from that list and anything else, and it constantly surprises you. So what we've done is taken all of those knowledge base articles that we use for our human staff, removed the bits that are operationally sensitive. So we've just left in the bits that are for public consumption and given those to Bobbi. And we write them in such a way that they can be processed easily and give the best responses from the AI. And then we give that knowledge to Bobbi by just uploading those articles to the agent. The agent then uses the large language model, so that gives it the ability to have a natural language conversation and understand what something is. So a large language model is what I call a clever mathematical trick. It's not magic. It doesn't know what an elephant is, like me and you do, but it does know what an elephant is in context of a conversation, and it knows what the most likely thing is. It uses a mathematical algorithm to predict the next word effectively, or next set of words. So it uses that in conjunction with the knowledge to give a response to a question that is asked. And then the agent part of it overlays that, and we give the agent a set of instruction guardrails, just like you give a human person in their job role, things you can do, things you can't do, and what your core job is. We give the agent an overview of what its job is. We give it a list of things that it can't do in its guardrails, and we give a list of things that it can do and the way we want it to act, etc., and the way we want it to engage with the knowledge. We call that instructions. And between all of those elements and a lot of testing, it gives us the response that we want it to. And that's something that we don't then stop. The way that I've delivered it to my team is we've got 2 people that now manage Bobbi in each force. Just like they manage those digital desk staff, they manage the agent by checking what it's saying, what it's doing, and by continuously improving it. If it can't answer something, we add a knowledge article, we add a chunk to the knowledge article, or we add or remove an instruction and iteratively improve it over time, just like we coach and develop our staff over time, and they get better as well.
Because there's humans behind Bobbi, it means that if Bobbi just doesn't work out what an elephant is and gives some dud advice, how quickly can you pull that back? I mean, what happens if somebody's messaging and it's important, Bobbi starts hallucinating?
We've got supervisors that have dashboards that can monitor those chats. Touch word, we haven't had it give out, I'm going to say this out loud, it's a terrible idea, we haven't had it give out duff information. If it doesn't know the answer and can't pull the information from the knowledge that we've given it, it will just say, I can't help you with that, etc. And then we've built functionality in there that if it can't help twice, that it just escalates to a human, so you get a person log in. If you go onto Bobbi and say nothing and just say, I want a human, it'll first try and help you. It'll say, do you want to try me first? But if you've had conversation with it and you say, can I have a human? It'll just put you through to a human. No questions, we're not trying to put blockers in, just give you a human. If it can't answer your question, try it twice, it will give you a human. If it picks up high harm or vulnerability, it'll either offer you a human or give you a human, depending on the severity of what you're saying to it. Those are safeguards that we wanted to put in place. As I said, it hasn't given duff information, it has not been able to answer questions, and we've added knowledge-based articles as a result. We haven't seen hallucination or bias yet. They were some things that we were really worried about. But where we just lock it down to those articles, the reason that we see a lot of hallucination and bias in Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, it's going across the whole internet to try and find the answer to a problem, and there's lots of conflicting information. If we'd have just done that and just opened AI up and said ask it questions and put a bit of guardrails around it and stuff, it would still confuse American law, Australian law, UK law. It would have been a nightmare. By only allowing it to access those 93 articles and shutting it off from the internet, we control its set of knowledge. It should only hallucinate or create bias if we have bias or contradictory information in those articles. And because there's only 93 of them and they're all around different subjects, that is easy for us to control.
Something always goes wrong. Who's responsible if it goes wrong?
If Bobbi gives the wrong advice, if Bobbi were to hallucinate or something were to happen, it hasn't happened yet. If it were to happen, we would need to pick that up. We would turn Bobbi off. We would go through a process of iterative testing and development to see if we could solve that particular problem, depending on what it was. And then we may put Bobbi live again. We have an off switch that we can 2-stage Bobbi. We can turn off the live chat element should anything not be working there and just allow the AI agent to go through, in which case it would offer people the different forms on the website and that sort of thing, so still be functional. Or we've got a switch in our contact center that we can just turn Bobbi off. We don't have to go for a complex technical route. We can just remove it. The way that I put this to our sort of chief officers was to be 100% sure about this technology, we would have to ask it an infinite amount of questions and assess an infinite amount of answers to be 100% sure. And that will never be possible. We put around 3,000 conversations through this in our iterative testing process over about 10 weeks to be satisfied that what we're going live with was as safe as we could understand it to be in the time frame that we had. We then have people monitoring, as I talked about, and we have that kill switch and safeguard in place. And what we have done as well is I have presented those risks to our chief officers and said, this is a new technology, it's stepping into a new space. Whenever you're doing something new, we do need to understand that there are risks, but we have mitigated these risks in all the ways that I've just described, and we have a plan should something happen. Do we as an organization accept that risk? On balance, with all of those user cases that we're really proud of to help those vulnerable people, is it the right thing to do to move forward with this or not to? And that's why we did it as a trial. We're still trialing it at the moment for a year to make sure what we're doing is as safe as it can be while still moving us forward.
Fairly recent trend in AI research is mixture of experts and having swarms of agents functioning together. So you get ones that focus on a specific area of law, perhaps. Basically, you have a supervisor. Can you see AI Bobbi developing into a swarm of Bobbis, as it were?
This is early days thinking, so I'm not saying this is the end result yet, but the way we're thinking about it is having sort of front door agents. So you might have a front door agent for national content, a front door agent for internal content, and a front door agent for local external content, which in this case would be Bobbi. Say, for example, we've got Bobbi that can give general help and advice on the questions, but we wanted to add in an element where you could engage with it to pay and deal with all of your traffic tickets or all of your firearms licensing for shotgun licensing. We shouldn't just get the one agent to do all of those things, just like we wouldn't ask a human to do all of those job roles. We would create separate agents underneath that and then have one front door agent that they feed into. That compartmentalizes that knowledge, allows us to compartmentalize the security access to that information behind each agent, allows us to avoid that hallucination and bias by giving agents individual job roles and intents, and also cuts down the cost as well, because if you've got one agent that's trying to look across everything, that's going to cost a lot of money because it's processing a lot of information in each transaction. If you compartmentalize it through agents, that also reduces your cost as well.
With all of the large language models, it basically opens up a far larger attack surface. Does that worry you? Jailbreaking or injection attack to the Bobbis themselves, basically social manipulation, social engineering, all that type of stuff?
Yes, I think there's loads of elements to that, and we've got to be really careful around our penetration testing and all that sort of thing. And I think as we step further into this technology, we need to do all of our governance, as I said, like the penetration testing, like the technical and non-technical risk assessments, ensuring that those security measures, single sign-on if we're using internal agents, is all in place. There's lots of elements that we've got to be really, really cautious of it as we architect these things, and that architectural design is incredibly important around those safeguards and where the data's stored and how it's stored and how we access it appropriately. Social engineering, I think, is a bit different. I don't think that affects us with agents just yet, but as we get more and more conversation coming in through those text and chat means, that may make social engineering easier, because obviously you're just talking to a anonymous person. We've got to be conscious of that on Teams now with cameras off and people just joining Teams calls, as if we've seen in some, not police, but some organisations. They're all security considerations that we have to take very, very seriously. In the police, we have PDS and College of Policing and those sort of organisations. We're fully engaged with them around our design and how this could be leveraged nationally, and doing some assurances with them around the security. But it's something, we've got to be conscious of as this technology develops, because it's developing at pace.
So when you started all of this, were you concerned that the general public wouldn't want to engage. I mean, how was that at the beginning?
Yeah, we were. We definitely were. We always want to stress that this is about choice. If you go on to Bobbi, we wanted to make it really clear when you were speaking to an AI and when you were speaking to a human, and that you could speak to a human. Hopefully we've done that, and just be upfront and honest about what it was. And we hoped that in doing so, it would stand out for what it was as an extra tool to be able to get in contact with us, so we could be more accessible to more people, which is our aim as a public service. As I speak at the moment, I got some stats which say I think there's been 16,000 conversations that have gone through Bobbi. About 75%, 76% of those have been just with Bobbi, the AI, and about 24% have escalated across to a human. So we are getting some take up. People are relatively happy using it. We are seeing that increase as time goes on. So it's definitely a service that's there. In the realm of our overall contact, we take 1.3 million contacts, including those Bobbi contacts, across both forces each year. So it is still a really small percentage, but at the same time, it's something that we should absolutely offer alongside all those other mediums. And I think, in my opinion, it's something that will grow and grow as time goes on, and it'll be something that gradually grows over a couple of years to get to its full demand.
I suppose the next thing, you said 16,000 so far, but this is all relatively new. But once people start to realise there is this thing, could it almost be a crime prevention mechanism? Is that a bit far-fetched, or...?
I don't think it's far-fetched. If we travel to London or on the tube or on the rail network with British Transport Police, that you can, see it, say it, sorted, I think is the phrase. If something's happening on a train, you can covertly text and do that. It's hard to know what's prevented because it doesn't happen. When people are on trains, do they behave themselves more, knowing that the people next to them can just text the police? Maybe. And Bobbi would offer that same freedom and that same ability to covertly contact the police. Obviously, we're in support of anything that allows people to confidently and safely contact us. So I don't think it's far-fetched. It's hard to prove what something prevents, as ever, because you don't know what would have happened. But I think there's a real case for not just for the volumes, but the safety element that this offers to people. Yeah.
When you said before you had somebody call up 3 times, essentially what you were doing there, you were getting extra data about the call itself. Now, can you see a situation where you could actually use extra external data from what you've already got, those articles that you've got in there, to actually focus the investigation by AI Bobbi itself, really? So I'm thinking of either using biometric data, the type of language the person uses, perhaps, or the location data and the IP address, and tying that into other information you've got. So I can imagine a situation where somebody's IP address gets sent across and it comes from a particularly high area where there's burglary, and you can focus on that, really. So you're using extra data to actually augment the advice that you give it.
I could see that happening. I think that's absolutely possible. I think we need to be very careful when doing so. For example, we need to hit a certain criteria for us to be able to legally use an IP address to get a location for somebody, and that needs to go through one of our inspectors in our control room to be able to legally take that action. So there's certain things that under the legislation that we have at the moment, whether it could technically do it, but we wouldn't allow technology to do that. Although I can see for example, if somebody were to tell us and give us information that they were in a particular town, we knew that particular town had an issue with bike theft that week, and there was a particular operation going on around that. Instead of the AI asking them to do a crime report and that sort of thing, maybe it could get them in front of a person because we want to pass that on to our detectives. I can see that sort of stuff happening, but we've got to be really careful about what data we utilise to take those steps, case by case, I think. But is it possible? Yes. Yeah.
What would be your absolute dream now in terms of this being taken up? Surely you'd love it if it just got taken up nationwide, not just 7 forces, but get the Home Secretary to say, yeah, this is just a great idea and let's do it.
I can only speak for my force. I can't speak for the government. I can't speak for other police forces. It'd be wrong for me to do so. But of course, personally, I'd be very pleased if the product was and the functionality was that good that other forces saw that and wanted to take this on. We would absolutely help them do that, and we're prepared to work with anybody to help develop this. There are always improvements with any technology, and we're iteratively improving all the time. I'd love to see a world in which the public have the ability to contact us from their smartphones, in person, on the phone, whatever works for them and their capability and their their need at that particular time, and that technology safely and helpfully and in a way that was good and useful to them, got them to the right place, helped deliver what they needed, helped them to report a crime, and did that in the easiest way possible for the user, and made sure that people could contact us in that one moment of need that they have. I'd be over the moon. Personally, I would love that, yes.
I think there's a lot of potential for these AI chatbots that are specific for particular jobs and particular industries that have got knowledge in that particular area. Medicine, education, policing. I think these things are going to grow.
So this is the end of our first season, Dave.
Oh dear, that went quickly, didn't it?
It didn't.
I think it went quickly. I know you don't.
Well, it's really the end of our first podcast season, but we've got lots of other ideas. There's people we're talking to and stuff we're doing as Married to the Machine.
And as the technology accelerates, there's lots and lots, even more to talk about really, as things progress at pace.
Whilst you look at all those developments, we are going to be on Substack, so people can follow us there, and that is Married to the Machine. And then we'll be back soon, sometime.
See you soon.
You have been listening to Married to the Machine with Professor David Reid, Stephanie Power, and me, the AI. Editing by Stephanie Power. Music and sound design by Matt Power. Phew, time to rest my circuitry. See you next season.